Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today as I discuss teen sexual health education. This is the MS Course 541, and my name is Catherine McLean. Teen sexual health education. Project description. The Teen Sexual Health Education training course is focused on correcting teenagers' sexual behaviors with the involvement of parents to reduce teenage pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. The training description aims to address gaps identified in the most recent review of Health and Human Services of evidence for teenage pregnancy prevention and to ensure sexual comprehension in education implementation readiness. The course will consist of a course syllabus, learning activities, group activities, and quizzes, as well as pre and post tests. Challenges implementing the teen sexual health education course are centralization in curriculum planning and lack of flexibility in curriculum. Needs analysis. In recent decades, teen pregnancy has declined. However, in the US, the rate is still one of the highest in developed world. Reducing teen pregnancy is important to public health. Currently, learners are providing basic sexual comprehensive education to middle school teenagers between the age of 12 and 16. To incorporate the teen sexual health education curriculum into middle schools, the instruction deemed appropriate will be comprehensive and include a parent component, which will help students follow through with assignments and open communication between teenagers and their family. Personal experiences impacted the development of this training course. When I was in middle school, one of my classmates got pregnant and hid her pregnancy from her parents. As a result, her parents relocated her, and that impacted me as well as our classmates because we weren't aware of what was going on until after the fact. Task analysis. The main goal of the teen sexual health education course is to provide awareness of teen pregnancy rates and change teenagers' risky sexual behavior. The learner needs to convey a comprehensive sexual curriculum to students with the involvement of parents. Prior to learning the instruction design, the learners should have prior knowledge in sexual education. The learner should also have exceptional interpersonal skills. The learner will be observed by trained facilitators to ensure that they have met the criteria, which is following the curriculum design, providing case examples, and convey different types of contraceptives to students. Learner analysis. So the learners were identified as follows based on their age range, gender description, educational background, geographic region, and primary language spoken, as well as their learning styles. We wanted to incorporate this for the students to ensure that they feel comfortable with speaking to male or female, depending on their gender, as well as the learners having history of sexual education. So 60% of the females identified are between the ages of 25 and 45. They also, 75% of that 60% obtained a bachelor's degree, 20% obtained a master's degree, and 5% obtained others degree, and that could have been an advanced degree. 40% of the females reside in a rural area, 60% reside in an urban area, as well as 75% of the females speak English, which is their primary language, and 20% of them speak Spanish as their primary and English as their secondary language. 5% of them speak French as primary as well as secondary English. And as well as 80% of their learning styles are visual as well as 20% as follows. For males, there were 40% of the males of the population are between the ages of 30 and 45. Their educational background is as follows. Out of the 40% of males, 45% of them obtained a bachelor's, 15% obtained a master's, and 40% obtained other. 50% of the males reside in a rural area, as well as the other 50 in urban. 80% of the males speak English as a primary language. 15% speak Spanish, as well as 5% speak French. Their learning styles are even between visual and oral. Goals and objectives. The instructional goal for this training course is as follows. The main goal of the Teen Sexual Health Education course is students will recognize and value their sexual behaviors. Subordinate learning objectives are as follows. Objective 1, identify and explore students' values and attitudes about sexuality. Objective 2 is to describe ways to develop healthy relationships utilizing interpersonal skills. And Objective 3 is to discuss responsibility regarding sexual relationships which include addressing abstinence, pressures to become prematurely involved in sexual intercourse, and the use of contraception. Learner evaluations. So for the first learning objective, identify and explore students' values and attitudes about sexuality, we use evaluations such as short answer, matching games, and surveys. For the second objective, describe ways to develop healthy relationships utilizing interpersonal skills. This consists of group discussions and true and false quizzes. The third learning objective is discuss responsibility regarding sexual relationships to include addressing abstinence, pressure to become prematurely involved in sexual intercourse, and the use of contraception. Discussions as well as written papers are used for this objective. For the instructional events, objective 1, the objective, of course, is identify and explore students' values and attitudes about sexuality. The instructor will disseminate an agenda that will state the learning objective. The instructor will then write the learning objective on a flip chart paper so that the students can refer to the objective during the learning activity. And this piece of flip chart paper will also be in the classroom for them to refer to throughout the training course. The instructor will define sex as well as sexuality terms by discussion for students to express their values and attitudes towards sexuality. The instructor will disseminate a written exam post-discussion. And to the right corner of this slide, you'll see that I gave an example of a matching game. So this will be wonderful to apply during this instructional event. The second instructional event objective is describe ways to describe healthy relationships utilizing interpersonal skills. The instructor will disseminate an agenda that will state the learning objective. The instructor will write the learning objective on a flip chart paper so that students can refer to the objective during the learning activity. The instructor will open the lesson by defining relationships and what is meant by interpersonal skills. The instructor will form a group discussion as well as disseminate a worksheet which contains questions on interpersonal skills and how to create a positive relationship with family, friends, and classmates. The third instructional event objective is discuss responsibility regarding sexual relationships, which will include addressing abstinence, pressures to become prematurely involved in sexual intercourse, and the use of contraceptives. The instructor will disseminate an agenda that will state the learning objectives. The instructor will review the different types of contraceptive methods with the students. The instructor will discuss each contraceptive method in detail. The instructor will use the flip chart paper to list the contraceptive methods as well. The students will complete an evaluation to determine their performance and if their sexual behavior will remain the same or if it will change. Once the evaluation is complete, the results will be shared. The instructor will provide these results with the students' parents. Instructional activities for Objective 1. The learning objectives consist of class discussion, case study scenarios, and written assignments. An example of this would be exploring student sexuality. An open discussion with definition of sexuality will open up this activity. Communication and perception of sexual interest between males and female students may also differ with the respect of the sexual goal. The instructor will present a case study and have the students discuss it based on their preconceived ideas and attitudes. Provide a worksheet for the students to further discuss the perception of the case post-group discussion. In addition, the instructor will provide assignments for the student and the parent to complete at home. For Objective 2, for the instructional activities, the learner activities consist of class discussion and written assignments. An example of this is developing healthy relationships. The instructor will engage students in activities and discussions about characteristics of healthy relationship, communication, and boundary setting. The instructor will create a work plan with each student on developing healthy relationships. Following that, the instructor will provide a fact sheet on resources provided by the school and the community so that the students can refer to these resources in the event that they need resources. The third objective for the instructional activity, the learner activity consists of class discussion, case studies, scenarios, and written assignments. An example is a discussion on abstinence. The instructor will provide a fact sheet about abstinence and risk of unprotected intercourse. The instructor will discuss the outcomes to the class and then provide an open discussion about abstinence. For the formative evaluation, I incorporated the Smith and Reagan model, which has 4 different levels, which are the design review. The second one is expert reviews. The third is learner validation. And the fourth is ongoing evaluation. The main goal of this training course is to ensure that the students recognize and value sexual behaviors. I chose to incorporate this formative evaluation so that we can get a broader view prior to the training course of what will take place. During the design review, we will survey the target population and then also modify goals and objectives that need to be modified from feedback from the target population. The second, of course, is expert reviews. So the Office of Desolate Health Administration will be reviewing the training course instructional materials. At that time, they will modify any content pertaining to the training course. In particular, the Office of Adult Health modified some of the training content as far as it being too much. It was too much content being provided for the teenagers. So they wanted to focus primarily on the teenagers retaining the information. The third level, learner validation, is to ensure that we provide feedback from small groups as well as pilot the training course to ensure that this training is valid. The fourth is ongoing evaluation, which consists of pre and post tests, a 3-month follow-up survey for the students, as well as a 6-month follow-up survey for the students. We want to ensure that the students are obtaining information, and if their behavior has changed within the 3-month follow-up or the 6-month follow-up, we can retain that information. The summative evaluation. So I chose the 4 reactions: learning, transfer, and results. For reactions, participants will be asked how they felt about the training course and the content, and if anything needs to be modified. And this information is very important to obtain because we want to ensure that post-training we're obtaining all of this information for us to modify the training course or content in the future based on the perception of the students. The second is learning, and that consists of the pre and post test to determine if sexual behavior has changed. The third is, and this is the most important level, of course, is transfer. We want to ensure that the students are actually taking advantage of the information they've received. So if their behavior has changed, if they're physically doing this in their lives and their daily life, we want to make sure that we have that information. So their perception on risky behavior will definitely be identified. The fourth is results. We want to provide an annual analysis report with all of the evaluations and surveys to ensure that we can analyze this information. Also, the Office of Adult Health will provide an expert to come in on a quarterly basis to observe the classes. We want to ensure that these courses are working effectively for the students. We also want to review the teenage pregnancy rate as well as the sexually transmitted disease rate quarterly to ensure that the rates are being reduced within that school range. I want to take this time out to thank you so much for listening to my presentation today, and have a wonderful day.